Good morning. It's Wednesday, January 8th. The multi-front war in the Middle East is now 460 days old. I'm your host, Jonathan Schanzer, and welcome back to the FDD Morning Brief. Reports this morning of U.S. strikes on Houthi targets. We'll discuss those Houthis shortly. But in the meantime, talk of a possible hostage deal continues. Reports now suggest that Stephen Witkoff, President-elect Trump's new envoy for the Middle East, is set to travel to Qatar to try and seal a deal before the Donald takes back the White House on January 20th. A bit irregular here, but it's still complicated. Only 34 hostages are on that list, and it's unclear how many of those are actually alive. Add that to the Hamas demand that the war must end with the release of these hostages, and we have ourselves a conundrum of sorts. Trump says that it won't be in anyone's interest if Hamas refuses to release the hostages. Will the terror group relent? I guess we'll find out over the next 2 weeks. Today's guest is Professor Jacob Nagel. In addition to his affiliation with FDD, Jacob has quite the biography. He's an IDF Brigadier General in reserves. He is the former head of Israel's National Security Council. He headed the Nagel Committee, which recently presented to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a series of recommendations on the security budget needs of Israel. This is not the first Nagel Committee. In fact, one of the previous ones assessed the viability of Iron Dome. This committee, however, its groundbreaking recommendations are still making headlines. We're going to hear from Jacob this morning about his new report and what it might mean for the future of Israel right here on the FDD Morning Brief. Things have gone rather quiet in the Middle East. The multi-front war has dwindled down to two fronts, at least for now. We see ballistic missiles fired at Israel by the Houthis in Yemen, and terror attacks continue in the West Bank, including one that killed 3 Israelis the other day. The other fronts could easily heat up again. The Hezbollah ceasefire could collapse. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham could remember its al-Qaeda roots. The Iranian regime could resume firing at Israel. Heck, the regime could try to make a dash for a nuke. But here's the thing. Everyone in the Middle East understands this is a time of waiting, not acting. The same here in Washington. Folks are waiting for the new administration before making any major moves. The quiet is not a bad thing, but let me remind you, in the Middle East, quiet rarely lasts for long. The X factor here is Trump. His signature unpredictability has prompted bad actors in the Middle East to pause and reassess. If they truly fear him, the war could end. If they don't, the multi-front war could resume. I can't predict the future. I have a hard enough time with the past. But I will say this. Israel promised the Biden administration it would not strike Iran after taking out the regime's air defenses back in late October. The clock is now ticking down on that promise. The Israelis believe Trump will give a green light if the threats warrant military action. The question now, does Iran believe that? All eyes on Tehran. Now for your headlines. Headline 1. The Biden administration is redirecting $95 million of military aid from Egypt to Lebanon. It's all there in a letter from the State Department to Congress. State says the funds are being reallocated to help the Lebanese armed forces address border security, terrorism, and other security challenges impacted by the leadership change in Syria, although we all know it's much more than that. The State Department also announced plans to redirect $77.5 million of military assistance from Israel to Lebanon. I don't think the Israelis are going to mind too much about this, but the Egyptians, I can't imagine this cut in nearly $100 million in aid has gone over too well in Cairo. But let's focus on Lebanon for a minute, because the Lebanese armed forces are supposed to be in charge of southern Lebanon right now, and that's not happening. The ceasefire in southern Lebanon is only holding on by a thread right now. It all hinges on the left's ability to assume control of the area and keep it Hezbollah free. And that's not going to happen anytime soon. The LAF has failed to serve as a check on Hezbollah for more than a decade now. Remind me again, what's the definition of insanity? Right. Headline 2, Palestinian terrorists opened fire on 2 cars and a bus in the West Bank. First, the gunman shot up a civilian car, killing 2 Israeli women at close range. Next, the terrorists opened fire on a bus, wounding the driver and at least 7 other passengers. The terrorists eventually fled the scene, but not before shooting at a 3rd car, killing an off-duty Israeli police officer who was driving with his son. Hamas, or whatever is left of the group, praised the attack as heroic. Israeli officials vowed to track down the perpetrators and hold them to account. A manhunt is underway for the 3 gunmen, 2 of whom are already wanted for terrorist activity. The attack came days after the Shin Bet announced that it had thwarted a whopping 1,040 significant terrorist attacks in the West Bank in 2024. It's fair to say that we should expect more of this in the weeks and months to come, especially if the other fronts go quiet across the Middle East. And headline 3, Israel is planning to boost its domestic arms industry. Yesterday, Israel's defense ministry signed 2 deals with Israeli defense contractor Elbit Systems that will ultimately reduce Israel's reliance on American weapons. Under the first agreement, Elbit will supply the IDF with thousands of heavy bombs. The second agreement is for the establishment of raw materials plant to produce materials that Israel primarily imported before the war. The contracts are worth 1 billion shekels, or roughly $275 million. Since the war began, the United States has sent Israel more than 50,000 tons of materiel. But the Biden administration also withheld certain munitions last spring. Director General of Israel's Defense Ministry, Eyal Zamir, said that the deals will help Israel expand its manufacturing independence. My hope here is that Israel is simply diversifying, because U.S.-Israel defense and security ties remain crucial to both countries. We're going to watch this space for other announcements and deals in the weeks and months to come. And that is a great segue for my conversation with Jacob Nagel. Jacob is no stranger to the show. He was one of the early guests on our program, but he's been a little quiet in the media recently because of the Nagel Committee report that he just completed. This was a major lift for Jacob, assessing the military needs of Israel with an eye toward the years and wars ahead. Jacob recently presented the committee's recommendations to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's going to talk to us right now about those recommendations. Welcome to the program, Jacob Nagel.
Hi, Jonathan. Really glad to see you again. For me, it's afternoon. For you, it's morning. But it's very important. I heard a little bit what you just said. And it's really the end of your remarks can be some parts of the beginning of my presentation.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about the formation of this committee that you just led. When was it created? What was its mandate? What did the government hope to get in the end from the Nagel Committee?
It's very important to understand. And again, you said we presented this report not only to the Prime Minister, because the committee mandate is signed by 3 people. It's the Prime Minister, it's the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Defense. And it was founded because after October 7, and because we understood many things, and I will come to it later, of course, the IDF and the Minister of Defense put on the table a bunch of needs, really big ones. And I'm not talking about 24, even 25, that it's like the needs for the war. I'm talking about the needs for the future. And it's amazing to talk on those things for the next 10 years, after you just mentioned the right and now things that are happening in Israel. But this is Israel. We have right and now, and we have future. So the mandate that these 3 important people gave us is, after 7-10 events and the Swords of Iron war, we started to work on August 2024, and we got 5 months to work. And as you know me, I told them I'm going to finish December 31st, and we finished December 31st. We were 12 people in this committee, really important people. You know, Major General Amidror, Major General Norkin, the previous head of the Air Force, and other generals, and many important economic figures. 4 people were nominated by the Prime Minister, 4 by the Treasury, 4 by the Minister of Defense. And our mandate is to look and debate what is the Israel future, not national security strategy, but national security operation thinking, according to the new challenges that we have, the new changes and things that can happen in our area. And remember that during our work, crazy important changes happened. For example, Syria went down, Turkey went into Syria, Iran attacked Israel for the second time, Israel attacked again and killed the Iranian air defense, and many other things. And we had to adjust on the fly to do those things. And one of the most important things is that, of course, there are a lot of demands that requires money, but it was very important to make a balance between the needs of the security and IDF and MOD and the capabilities of the Israeli economy to sustain. We called it without security, there is no economy, and without economy, there is no security. And the second phrase that was, we put it on the wall, on the committee room, is that the question is, do you want the quality of life or the life? It's a very, it's not just a phrase. It's very important to balance between the quality of life and the life itself. And what happened in October 7 just proved it to us. If you want, I can go also on the 5 main, outcomes from the committee, but I will give to you if you want to go to other places.
Yeah, I want to get to that. But first, I want to just get a sense from you. You and I spoke about this, but I think it's important that our audience understand. For a few months there, for 5 months, you're one of the most popular people in Israel, more than Gal Gadot, I would argue.
No,
right?
No more than Gal Gadot. No.
Okay, but I mean, everybody
even see, I'm prettier.
Okay, but literally everybody in the establishment, the military and security establishment in Israel wanted 15 minutes with you. So perhaps give us a short list of the people that you spoke to and explain what they wanted. Why did they want to talk to you?
Okay, first of all, I can give you numbers. So because when we presented this committee report to the Prime Minister and the Minister just 2 days ago, we just did some numbers. So we worked 7,000 hours. We did about 60 days of meetings, and we have a report of 130 pages as the classified one and 109 pages the unclassified one. We met everyone that is connected, starting from the ministers and the prime ministers, of course. Every one of them we met 2 to 3 times. Chief of staff, 3 times of hours of meetings. The deputy chief of staff, all the important people from the treasury, from Israel Central Bank, from the treasury, from the minister, and everyone that in the first level and some of the second level. We met almost every major general of the general staff of Israel, head of intelligence, head of the Air Force, head of the Navy, head of the Army, head of the Southern, Northern, Central Command, and you can go on and on and on. We met the head of the Mossad, the head of the Shabak. Everyone wanted to sit with us. No one gave us 15 minutes. The minimum one was 90 minutes. Some of them was half a day, 1 day, some of them even 2 days. We met almost everyone that have something to say about Israel posture, Israel defense, Israel procurement, Israel. Of course, we met the people from the Minister of Defense, the Director General Eyal Zamir, the head of the DDR&D, and almost everyone.
So safe to say that you had unbelievable access to the minds that shape the security establishment in Israel, and you got all their input. So now, based on all of that, what were the key findings of the Nagel Commission report? What does Israel need for the wars that it will fight in the future?
First of all, I want to say, if someone can read Hebrew, he can see the report, the full Hebrew report online. But I'm working now on an English version. I hope in 10 days we will have an unclassified also English version. And if yes, we will share it via FDD with all of our viewers and the people that are supporting FDD, and of course everyone else that would like to have the English version to read. Now, and I'm going to come to Washington in 2 weeks also to give a seminar in FDD about this one in the end of this month. Now, if I will take 5 major points from this, from the findings of our committee, and it's important. Again, it's not simple to summarize 130 pages in five bullets. But first thing is that everyone that we met at the end, okay, what are the numbers? What are the numbers? So we have a number. We have a number. What our committee recommend that will be the addition to the Israeli defense budget during the next 10 years. But our committee is not only about numbers. We have almost 80 plus recommendations on all issues. Now, I will just put 5, 6 of them here. First of all, and I'm not mistaking, first important thing is what we call the human resource. We are in a very, very deep crisis now because, again, it started before the war, but the war enlarged it. You know, Israel has 3 kinds of people that are serving the IDF. We have the compulsory, the people that are the young ones that are at age 18 are coming for 3 years. We have the regular army, the people that this is their profession, and we have the reserve. In all 3 of them, there are some kind of things, and we have a full chapter of recommendation on each one of them to make sure that we are supporting our manpower. Second thing, Iran was established, was decided, was for sure focused as the Israeli main threat for the next few years. We didn't have, it was not mature, not politically, not operationally, that we can reduce or eliminate the Iran nuclear threat totally. During the last 2 decades, we slowed it down together with friends, alone. Everyone knows what is the Mabam, the war between wars. We slowed it, but you know, things happen. So Iran is the main threat, and a big chunk of our recommendation is what we have to do against Iran. This is, of course, mostly remain in the classified part of the report. But if we just talk about, you know, usually when you want a bomb, you need fissile material, weapon system, and means of delivery. Until now, the fissile material enrichment was number 1. We recommended number 1 should be the weapon system and maybe weakening the regime and missiles, and then enrichment. We have to, of course, control the enrichment, but as you know, I wish the Iranians will go from 60 to 90 because it means nothing and the world will understand what they were doing. Beside Iran, we are talking about defense in the borders, air defense, enhancing Israel attack capabilities, making sure that our ground forces and the maneuvering force is good enough for future terrence around us. You know, people say, but you don't have Hezbollah, you don't have Hamas, what's going on? What you need? Believe me, in our area, when one threat going out, another threat coming in, just see what's going on in Syria now. So everything, our situation today, maybe it's better, but in some areas, you know, take Jordan, the longest border that Israel have, we have to build a new border there. We have to build what you just started, what we call a DIB, Israel Defense Industrial Base. We put about 20, 25, not the only 2 that you just mentioned that already started yesterday, about between 18 to 20 kind or families of parts that we need to be independent, but it's not meaning that if we are independent, we are doing it only in Israel. We have to have redundancy. If we can buy it from US or from other places, it's very good. But we have to make sure that if not because someone don't want to give us, but because sometimes he cannot give us, or he don't have it, or he have another war. Now, one more very, very important point is that we recommend Israel to move from what we call the containment and defense approach to an approach of attack and preventing and making sure that you are prepared to retaliate not proportionally and very, very fast towards your enemy action. And 2 words that are used to be, you know, not 2 words that you can use. And remember the article we wrote in FDD before the war on a preemptive strike on the north and what could happen if maybe something was. So the preemptive strike and a war that you are the one that really created and decide to do it in advance, are not words that you cannot use. And of course, at the end, we have a vector of money. Now, the IDF put on the table the demands. They called it in three layers. One or three alternatives. One was they call it the minimal addition. The second one they call a normal that they can live with, and the third one was if we get everything we want. What we recommended in our committee is less than the minimum number, but still it's very, very high. We recommended an addition of 133 billion shekel for the next 10 years to add to what Israel have. At the end, if you look on our budget, defense budget before the war, and what we recommend, it's about 50% raise of the budget, take 25 out. Iran is going to double their defense budget. We are saying 50%, and still we will come that Israel defense budget out of its GDP will be around 5%. It used to be 7. On 2025, it will be about 6.5.
Wow. Okay. So Israel has a lot of money that it is going to spend, big plans for construction of the defense industrial base, big plans for acquisitions. Any last thoughts? Any other thing that we need to know about this deal?
I think that I can talk, and you know me, I can talk now 5-6 hours if you want on this plan. If someone want to do it, I'm in Washington. I am free to talk on if everyone that want. But if I will put three, what we put it on the last page of our report is the three main, points that I am sending to my government. We wrote it. So this, for example, this is the report. If someone wants to see, this is the unclassified report. So I brought it. Everyone can see that I'm not talking in the air. So what we say that Israel have to defend itself by itself and be prepared to do what I just said. Second, the Israeli security will always be based on our, advantage, what we call technological and manpower and fight spirit, and our new and advanced systems and our new and advanced thinking of our people, and of course our technological superiority. And the last thing is that the war, people don't understand it. The war is being decided mostly at the stage of the force build-up, not on the force operation. People don't understand it. We need, of course, to operate it. But if you didn't build your force, you didn't build your systems, you are 10 years behind. So you have to invest in the force build-up and building your capabilities in advance and put anything you need in advance. Of course, it costs a lot. It affects your economy. So one of our main missions, and I think we succeeded, because about 60% of what we recommended to add, we even gave where we think it can come from, not taxes. We have to put it, we have to do it, and at the end, if you do it, Israel can be in a better security. If you will be in a better security, you will be in a better economy.
All right. We're going to leave it there. Thank you, Jacob Nagel, for joining us today on the FDD Morning Brief.
Thank you. It was a pleasure as always. Thank you.
All right. Here's what FDD has on tap for you today. FDD's Matt Pottinger is teamed up with artificial intelligence expert Dario Amadei for a piece in the Wall Street Journal where they emphasize the critical national security importance of U.S. leadership in AI. The incoming Trump administration has a unique opportunity to position the U.S. as a global trailblazer in what appears to be the next major frontier. Check out my colleague Ahmad Sharawi's piece in FDD's Long War Journal, which profiles additional figures from the new Syrian army following the fall of the Assad regime. Personnel is policy. That's a truism here in Washington. We're not sure if it holds in Syria, but the FDD team will continue to keep a close watch on those figures and their influence on Syria's trajectory. And finally, check out the recording of yesterday's event hosted at FDD's HQ, where National Cyber Director Harry Coker Jr. spoke with FDD's Mark Montgomery about his time as the president's senior advisor on cybersecurity. Coker reflected on past successes and lessons learned for the future. Check that out at fdd.org/events or on the FDD website. And that is a wrap for today, folks. If you're looking for something smart to read, just look for the expert analysis on our website, fdd.org. Read our quick takes on X at FDD. Check out our Instagram and YouTube channels. And it's never too early in the year to make that tax-deductible donation at fdd.org/invest. Tune in Friday for another gripping episode of the FDD Morning Brief. More news, more analysis, more smart people taking us behind the headlines. Until then, I'm Jonathan Schanzer signing off for FDD.